Hi, everyone. Welcome to Hacking Evolution. Before we start, since we have a small group of audience here, I wanted to know how many people came to really hack their own evolution. Very good. We see 3. So how many are here to invest in companies and trying to figure out, which ones are the money-making ones? Okay, a couple as well. All right. So I think we have a very fascinating discussion on how we can hack our own evolution. So Wei, what does hacking, human evolution mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot. Actually, I didn't contribute to the panel for give this topic, but I think it's exactly describe what the company, what the BioMap is currently doing. So I think a long history about drug discovery, about the people's interaction with the living world, with living creatures. At the first, the drug discovery is more about we just like cherry picking randomly in the real world, and then we developing the technologies to screen all the living creatures to see in which creatures we can have the right results for the targets. So at that moment, I think it's just screening, it's not hacking. And then the people suddenly found that, especially for the new targets, for the new disease, such as the new cancer, the aging disease, we cannot easily to find a right answer just in the natural world. So people begin to accelerate the evolution by developing new animal models, by to use the gening, to use the CRISPR to help the animal models to change into a way that can be responsible for the new targets, maybe the target protein you inject in to see what's the result you can get from. So it's still based on the animal model, based on the nowadays evolution tree, but it's begin to hack. But I would like to say it's more like accelerate to speed up the process. And nowadays, it's more and more like with the new, maybe the AI technology, with the CRISPR technology, that we can easily to write many of our rules into the living creatures. We can build up our models from all kind of the different kind of the evolution trees. We get the information out of the tree, and we build a new model to actually it's not just based on the natural world. So it's more like hiking. So for me, the hiking is not just to follow the evolution, but like to reinvert the evolution, like to rebuild the Earth for so many times to see how the evolution tree will look like. Because the evolution is about the pressures and the selections under the pressures. So the correct evolution tree is not under the pressure of the target of the drug discovery target, the objectives we are going to do. So it's very hard based on the nowadays evolution tree to find the right result. So about hiking, I think it's about reboot. But we cannot physically reboot the Earth. So the AI, the data science is like to relearn from the real Earth and reboot it in the cyber world. So it's like hacking, it's like hacking, like what I'm doing and all the new AI companies are doing right now.
Okay, so it's hacking. It's about building model using AI. It's like a digital twin where we simulate what will happen.
It's like building a new evolution tree, right? So like you said, the digital twins.
Exactly.
There are so many different digital twins that is not related to, not similar to the correctly in the Earth ones.
Okay. Yeah, so I think to me, hacking human evolution, the word hacking, the first time I encountered this word is actually when I was studying computer science at MIT. Hacking means that you can hack into the system and change your grade, or get a glimpse on what will be on the test. And then years later, I found, wow, not only can we hack into the computer system, but we can hack into our own system, which is very, very exciting. And hacking biology, I think, one thing we can learn is from people who have been trying to hack biology. So I think we have different approaches from the epigenetic reprogramming, cellular side, as well as lots of society in the ancient world. For example, traditional Chinese medicine, they've been trying to hack age. They are trying to live long forever, from the emperors to all these Taoism people. Some succeeded, some others didn't. So I think having an AI tool can really be helpful to understand, what are the best practices that worked and why does it work or under what kind of conditions this could work. So before it's not possible at all, but with AI and the huge amount of data we can collect on our environment, the weather, the food we eat, the behavior we have, etc. I think this is very exciting. Yeah. So coming back, so hacking evolution, where are we today? Where do you see the opportunities? And what are the challenges?
Yeah, I think you raised a very good point, especially when you're talking about hacking biology. The hacking biology has been there for like 20 or 30 years because we start from hacking maybe a cell itself, or we hacking an animal, we hacking the rat to the rat model for antibody discovery, and we successfully discover many antibodies from the rat model. We hacking the phage display system. It's like a kind of the living creature system. We hacking the yeast system. We have already hacking from cell to different kind of the animal system, but we still far away from hacking the evolution. Because when you're talking about the evolution, is like quite a diversity of like millions of different kind of species. And when we're talking about evolution, we need to hacking the evolution tree. We need to hacking also in the time, in the history span, not only a single cell at this moment. So I think it's bringing the necessity for the AI, for the modeling. Otherwise, I think it's just a biotech. It's high throughput biotechnology. The CRISPR itself can hacking almost all the proteins in a cell, but it cannot modeling the evolution and get feedback. So I think with the developing of AI, and especially with the developing of the new data reading measures of the biology, and also the writing technology, like the CRISPR, like the synthetic biology, because without this kind of read modeling, writing, it cannot be a closed loop. It's hard to say whether it's a good evolution or not. So with this kind of technology progressing in the last 5-10 years, I would like to say most of the progress happened in the last 5 years. For example, the CRISPR come into the real industry. We can do high throughput and read CRISPR for many of the different mutations of one single cell now, but not that much in the last 5 years. For the DNA sequencing, for the reading, it's common sense in the last 20 years, but it's only in the last 5 years when the single cell RNA sequencing is come to mature. It can be really providing enough data for we to modeling the evolution, not only a single cell. So I think it's keep growing. But one of the another measure, because we are talking about the read technology, is biology. About the writing technology is about biology. But another, I think, turning point is the AI. So the AI has been there for the last 10 or 20 years. So what's the difference between the AI, between maybe the bioinformatics, between the biodata processing? There's no real difference between them. But I think in the last 3 or 5 years, when the foundation model, when the large language model happens, just like in the human's natural language field, it's bring quite difference. So the large language model is really a kind of new AI approach that can take advantage of all this data. Because when we're talking about evolution, the data set is huge. And I think different oranges of the data, they have a huge batch effect. They focus on different kind of the research topic. They even come from different kind of species, from human, from animals, from planet, from enzyme, everything. So without this kind of new AI foundation model technology, it's very hard to modeling all these different parts together. So it's another great leaps. So to me, I think the last 3 or 5 years has witnessed a huge evolution in the evolution itself. Yeah, but I think it's still a long way to go.
Yes, I totally agree. As an investor, we've been investing for the past 17, 18 years.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of hypes and cycles.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying that maybe we are in a AI hype cycle because if we look at AI, besides NVIDIA, TSMC, the hardware providers who are having a real business model and make tons of money.
Yeah.
If you look at the software, even the foundation models, not to mention the application layer,
Yeah.
you really have a sustainable model. That's something I think everybody is asking themselves after the AI hype last year. And the vertical application in, for example, healthcare, pharma, drug discovery, protein, etc. I think this is also very exciting. But there are also questions of, okay, previously there's this big wave of AI-aided drug discovery. But if we look at big companies coming out of this opportunity, we don't see like multi-billion-dollar companies that went public. I mean, given the market situation, that's probably not as easy as well. But how do you see this business model evolving with the help of LLM, which is a more advanced version of the AI that we have available 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think the LLM quite bring difference, but still there are no high market cap company at this moment. We are one of the pioneer in the large language model for biology. We just sell like more than $1 billion deal with a multinational company, but still I think it needs to take another 3 or 5 years to deliver all the milestones. So I think it's just at the beginning. But theoretically, I think the rules changed quite a lot because the large language model is about generative. So when we have the large language model, it's possible to generate de novo designs that not pre-exist in the nature, and it cannot be pre-delivered by all the animal models in the past. So it's bring the business model changes. Otherwise, if you are talking about AI is just a kind of technologies. The big pharma, the market, the FDA is not care about what driven technology you use. They just care about the result.
Right.
So even the AI biotech need to put their pipelines into clinical research. It takes like 5-7 years. So even the first batch of the AI biotech didn't have go through all this experience. And I think it's quite balanced that AI biotechs maybe is good at discovery, but for the clinical research, they need to build a team. They need to learn from the big farmers. So the failing rate is high as well. So it's a reason that I see there is more than a dozen of the pipeline designed by the AI biotech company coming to the clinical trial, but the successful rate is not high, even lower than the traditionally methodology. But for the large language model, it brings the capacity to generative. So when we're talking about generative, it's de novo design for the new modalities, for that the pipelines that totally cannot be designed by the traditional models, traditional approach. This means the farmer are willing to pay for that possibilities well before clinical stage. So for us, like the real case, most of our deal with a big pharma or other biotechs is not related to we perform the clinical trial. It's about what's the model you develop and what's the heat you generate through the model. You can earn a lot of money through this stage. So it's more like a tech company. Traditionally, biotech company is about pipeline design, about the asset. But now the tech company, even in the life science field, is about model. So we call ourselves model as a service providers. I believe there are more and more model as a service provider in the life science field. If you can bring real value, real new potential to this field.
Got it. Yeah, so I think model as a service, that's very interesting. And some people argue that model will be freely available in a few years. I was at MIT's Dean's Advisory Council a couple of weeks ago, and there are fascinating research on how do we leverage non-proprietary data or data from retina scan to really learn of all the images and all the training that's necessary instead of relying on proprietary copyright questionable kind of data. So for you, how would you compare yourself with amount of data, let's say DeepMind from Google they can access, or other people from the academia that may not have so much money to buy those data or to collaborate with the big pharma, but found a different way, out-of-box thinking in not using the existing proprietary patient-sensitive data, but using something way out of box to generate similar insights.
Yeah, so it's about evolution, right? We we no longer only use the patient data is quite sensitive, but it's still limited to the limited of the nature of disease and limited to the what's of the diagnosis you can do in the hospital. But when we back to the evolution tree, when we look at the animal, as a planet, as maybe the enzyme, as other creatures, and looking at about academic, there are plenty of new kind of data available in that kind of researches. But the problem is that kind of data is quite diversity. So it's hard to be used by the traditionally AI model. So the large language model, I think, bring in two value. First is that can use low relevance data in the big data. And second, it still needs to have the precise data for validation. So the large language model cannot purely depend on the AI, on the data. It needs to come back to the closed loop with biology. So it's also a hurdle for the large language biology companies that not like the large language model company for the internet. You can just build an internet system. You need to build a high throughput lab system. Whatever you generative design, it not pre-exist. So you need to put this design into reality. You need to, we call it print. We print the protein or we print the cell from a design from the cyber world to the real world. And we validate it and test it very, inclusively in our lab and with comprehensive of the metric to see whether it really works. So that kind of data is quite precise. But it's a small amount because we use the large data to train the model to generative, and we only need to generate like maybe for one target, we only generate like 300 or 500 real proteins for test is enough. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to give enough time for the audience to ask any questions. So.
Yeah, maybe I can ask you about the opinion for the data because I know you are a very successful investor, investing in many biology, new biotech data generation technicals. Which one you think is can change the way not only the large language model, but maybe AI and the biotech discovery in the future?
Yeah, so I think, model, that's something a lot of people, and which I agree, will become more commoditized as we go on. Because if you look at, Hugging Face, those open source model, there's thousands of them, all targeting different space.
Yeah.
And there's one for each vertical and sub-vertical. So I think model going forward, we have this building infrastructure time, which will take a couple of years, but then going forward, I think we'll have a different model to select from. And high quality data, that is definitely something where it's very valuable. However, because healthcare data is extremely sensitive.
Yeah.
So do you have the right access, and also the ethnic groups will be different. So if you have population data on Asians, does that apply to Southeast Asian or Caucasian or other ethnic groups? So I think so how do you gain an advantage on data, or there are out of box thinking if we don't leverage much, or maybe we just use 5 to 10% on real human data, but then have the rest generated from some other insights that could seem totally irrelevant, but are very influential in treating the data.
So it's for the same reason for me, I always call it the foundation model, the large language model for life science. So it's marketed as science, not for clinical, not for healthcare, because it's more like related to the hospital, about to the patient. But for the science, for the life science, there are plenty of new data technology employed by the academic research and also some public database. For example, the UK Biobank, and also there are so many gene programs in America and in Middle East. Most of the data are quite public and well covered all the different species. But for the clinical data, it's quite sensitive. And actually, I think it's also quite conservative in what kind of the technology you used to get this data. For example, the single cell DNA sequencing is not well accepted in the hospital yet. It's because of the, I think, the error rate is still high and the expensive for using it for the clinical patient.
Good. Do we have any question from the audience? Please.
We're in a strange time geopolitically right now. Putting aside the Middle East geopolitics, we have challenges in U.S.-China relations and broader Asian dynamics. But how do you think about non-government commercial collaboration opportunities in an era like this, where the sensitivity is high and policy making is making things very challenging? I invested in a company that is in a completely different space in automotive technology, but they have significant Chinese operations, and it's been a nightmare because we're a US company, and now basically most of the synergies we want to pursue are gone. This is so much more important for human progress, and yet, you know, politics get in the way. So any ideas about ways for collaboration when governments are not collaborating?
Yeah, Ying, maybe.
I'll answer it from the technological standpoint. So technologically, there's you know, a lot of encryption methodologies where the data doesn't need to travel. For example, there's a federated learning where you can have data locally and encrypt everything with fully homomorphic encryption. So then they don't know anything about what they are trained on. So that's on the technology side. It's totally feasible, and it's you know, you can do it today. However, we're talking about politics, and that's something that's totally out of our control. So as an investor, Atma Capital, we are very conservative. We don't want to step into the areas where, you know, the U.S. government said that none of the U.S. people should invest in any of the AI companies in China. However, that said, I think this AI and you know, hacking evolution is a long-term thing. So if we look at the next 3 to 5 years, it's very hard. And I would probably not recommend my portfolio companies in trying to do something, you know, interesting between the two countries. However, given the long horizon that we are dealing with, I think it is entirely possible. Maybe there could be collaboration as time goes on, and as, you know, things evolve, the leaders change, etc.
Yeah, for me, it's a very good question. I think it's the reason why we are here. Right? I think we need to start our company here, raise fund here, and cover both China and America. This will be the final solution. But for now, I think we select another solution because I used to be an AI investor for like 20 years. The reason why I've closed all my other investment activities but focus on the AI for biology, I think biology is more about the international corporations. Because especially for the new drug design and or new other protein or new pipeline designs, it's unmet medical need. Or unmet need cannot be fulfilled by single American company or single Chinese companies. So I think both countries need to be cooperation together to get this unmet medical needs solved as soon as possible. So we also witnessed in the past 2 years that from ourselves, because we are quite American-China cross-border companies, but still we have huge deals from both American-based multinational company, Europe-based, and China-based. They might inquire about our, how to say, the administration and about the structure of the company, but even they know that we have the existing in both America, China, and the Middle East. I think most of the multinational companies are fine with that, except when you provide real value for them. So just moving to the frontier biology, I think is another solution.
Yeah. Anyone else? That's a great question.
What's your view on the, Neuralink? This kind of direction is
Neuralink?
Yeah, like
Okay.
Elon Musk's work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question for tech investor.
Yeah, I think Neuralink is very exciting, although it's also on the long horizon side. When are we going to really, have implants in our brain? But this is something I think affects a lot of different aspects of, from the health to interaction with the computer to, how we interact with the growing number of digital devices out there in the world. So I think Neuralink, they're doing something very, very interesting, and there are more and more companies appearing in this space, like paradromics, precision neuroscience, etc. So I think this space is definitely growing in interest from both the investors as well as the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, yeah. I think they are a very good tech company, and the common challenge for that kind of the frontier tech companies is about the clinical trials. So for them, I think it's the same. They can easily find some of the patients to try their technologies, but for the healthy people, it's more about the regulations. You can try it and you can put it into markets, but what's the side effect about maybe 5 years later or 10 years later if the health people with the Neuralink get some aging disease? It's hard to say. So but it's not only the problem of the Neuralink, it's about every aging company, drug company. So personally, I believe
sorry to interrupt. I think they're signaling we are out of time, but I think we can probably take it offline with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the
everybody
question.
for attending. This is a very great panel. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ying.